Picture this. You're standing in the heart of the Sinai Desert, where nothing grows, where the sun beats down mercilessly and where life seems impossible. Now imagine discovering a tree-lined avenue right there in that barren landscape. Sounds impossible, right? Well, prepare to have your mind blown because archaeologists have just uncovered exactly that at an ancient fortress called Tell Abu Seifi. This isn't a mirage or some fictional story. This is real, and it's completely revolutionizing everything we thought we knew about ancient Egyptian desert life. The site of Tell Abu Seifi sits in the northern Sinai Peninsula, and for the longest time it was just considered a dusty archaeological footnote. Scholars knew there were ruins there from the Ptolemaic and Roman periods. That's the era after Alexander the Great swept through Egypt, and when the Roman Empire claimed its territory. But recently, Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities decided to launch new excavations, and what they discovered turned out to be way more than just a forgotten outpost. We're talking about a full-scale military fortress, complete with defensive trenches, paved roads, furnaces, barracks for soldiers, and even housing for their families. An entire residential complex in the middle of the desert. Now that doesn't sound very welcoming until you remember our star attraction, the unexpected Green Avenue. This road stretched over 90 meters long and 11 meters wide. That's about the size of an American football field. It was paved with limestone slabs and lined with more than 500 clay planting pits. These weren't just decorative. They contained real trees, creating a shaded tree-lined entrance directly to the fortress. Imagine walking through all of that. The sun blazing overhead, and suddenly blessed shade appears. This wasn't just a grand entrance. It was an ancient red carpet, or maybe we should call it a green carpet. But here's the thing. This wasn't about aesthetic appeal alone. The existence of hundreds of trees in a desert landscape over 2,000 years ago tells us something incredibly important. You see, the Ptolemaic Egyptians weren't just skilled monument builders. They were absolute masters of water resource management. In a place where rain was rarer than a selfie with a pharaoh, they somehow managed to grow rows and rows of trees. Let that sink in for a moment. To irrigate so many trees in the desert, they must have had a sophisticated irrigation or water transport system. Something capable of moving and distributing water effectively in that hostile climate. Perhaps they channeled groundwater. Maybe they captured seasonal rains. Or ancient sprinklers? Okay, maybe not that advanced, but still it's clear they were way ahead of their time. Here's the point. We already know the Egyptians had perfected water control. They harnessed the Nile with ditches and canals to irrigate fields far away. So irrigation wasn't a mystery to them at all. They possessed the expertise and the knowledge. Now, scientists still debate what the Sinai climate was like 2,000 years ago, but many believe it might have been greener back then. After all, just look at those dramatic mountains and rocky landscapes carved and shaped as if by the brutal force of ancient rivers. It's hard not to think that water played a much more significant role there. Plus, archaeologists have found multiple evidence showing that Ptolemaic Egyptians cultivated fruits, vines and trees on a large scale. In other words, growing a forest in a desert might seem unusual to us, but for them it was just another Tuesday. And now this green avenue is making archaeologists think hard. What if similar irrigation systems were used elsewhere? For example, to transport the gigantic blocks used to build the pyramids. There's already a theory that ancient rivers or artificial canals helped move those massive stones, and the discovery at Tell Abu Seifi, well, it might just be the missing puzzle piece we've been searching for. This isn't just a dream, my friends. Back then, rivers were like highways, power grids and freight trains of the ancient world all rolled into one. The Egyptians used them for everything: irrigating fields, trading, powering industry, and even mobilizing for war. If you were doing something important, it probably involved a river. But wait, it gets even more interesting. The excavations revealed deep defensive ditches, similar to old moats, dug about 2 meters deep around the fortress. These weren't simple muddy ditches, but part of an elaborate defensive system designed to be filled or crossed to control access. Think of it as ancient Egypt's version of a retractable security barrier without the hydraulics. And while the ditches kept intruders away, life inside the fortress was bustling. Remember how we said archaeologists found military housing units? It turns out soldiers might have lived there with their families. So it wasn't just a barracks, but a thriving community with meals, routines, children playing, and probably plenty of ancient gossip flying around the dinner table. Beyond all the military stuff, researchers discovered 4 enormous lime furnaces used to produce quicklime. That's an essential ingredient for preparing mortar for construction. These furnaces are significant because they suggest that during the final phase of the Roman period, Tell Abu Seifi transformed into an industrial centre. It was like ancient Egypt's steel mill, producing materials to build and repair buildings. But here's where the plot thickens. Under all of this, beneath the roads, trenches and furnaces, archaeologists discovered corners of an even older structure. A mysterious building. Could it be the remains of a third, much older fortress? Or an ancestral cemetery? Or a lost city? Nobody knows yet. But one thing is crystal clear. This story isn't finished. Honestly, this might be the most fascinating archaeological cliffhanger of the decade. What does all this mean? For starters, it challenges everything we've always assumed about desert life in ancient Egypt. For a long time, deserts were considered natural barriers, arid, deadly, and empty. But this discovery suggests the desert might have once been green and full of life. Not because the climate was drastically different, but because the Egyptians were incredibly skilled at adapting the environment to their desires. They didn't just survive in the desert, they transformed it. It also adds fuel to the age-old debate about ancient Egyptian technology. If they could build a fortress with tree-lined roads, ditches, irrigation systems, and industries in the heart of Sinai, is it really so hard to imagine they could engineer water channels to move pyramid stones? Forget that TV show Ancient Aliens. Sure, it's entertaining, I'll give you that, but it makes us forget something fundamental. Those people were brilliant. Much of what we call modern technology is the result of recycling ancient ingenuity, and who knows how much knowledge we've lost over time. Meanwhile, excavations continue. Scientists are now mapping the entire Tell Abu Seifi site, trying to reconstruct how all the structures connect to each other. Some want to analyze soil samples to find traces of ancient tree roots and maybe even determine what types of trees grew there in the past. Imagine if they were date palms. We could be looking at the world's oldest snack boulevard. You already know the implications of these discoveries don't stop at history books, right? This type of discovery has modern relevance. Our world is also going through many changes with extreme weather conditions and intense heat waves. So maybe we should ask ourselves, what can we learn from ancient civilizations that once made the desert flourish? If nothing else, Tell Abu Seifi reminds us that ancient Egyptians were much more than just pharaohs, pyramids and mummies. They were visionary planners, eco-architects, and authentic problem solvers. They didn't wait for nature to offer them what they needed. They engineered it. And thanks to discoveries like this, we're getting a clearer picture of just how truly advanced and, let's be honest, how absolutely fascinating ancient Egyptian civilization really was. So, the next time someone tells you that deserts are just desolate wastelands, you can surprise them with this fascinating fact. Over 2,000 years ago, in the heart of the Sinai Desert, there was a fortress with a tree-lined avenue, ditches, military housing, an industrial centre, and even a secret underground structure. Talk about more than just sand dunes. Who knows what else is still buried out there, waiting to be discovered? Fellow time travellers, thank you for joining this incredible archaeological journey today. Before we conclude, make sure you've subscribed to Treasures of History and activated that notification bell so you never miss our adventures into the past. Share this video with fellow history lovers who need to know about these amazing discoveries. Leave your theories and questions in the comments because your insights might unlock the next great mystery. Join us next time as we continue our quest to uncover the treasures that time forgot and the secrets that changed the world forever. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning.